Welcome to Your Life with your hosts, Dr. Tony Hare and Dan DeBruler. Together, we're exploring the questions everyone has about life, love, parenting, and relationships. Tony Hare is an independent certified coach, teacher, and speaker with the John Maxwell team, author and inspirational speaker who lives in Fayetteville, North Carolina. He has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, a master's degree in pastoral counseling, and a doctorate of philosophy in Christian counseling. Dan DeBruler is a retired U.S. Army communications specialist and has spent more than 20 years encouraging listeners through Christian radio.
Hey, good afternoon. Thanks so much for being with us today. I'm Dan DeBruler, and we got some good stuff for you today. I am excited to look at this with Dr. Tony Hare as we talk about experience being a tool to be used. Tony, what are we looking at today?
Hey, how's it going today, Dan?
Good.
It's outstanding. Great warm day to be alive, but we accept that, can we consider the alternative. But being here today with you, just want to talk a little bit about how when we really look at our lives, and for the most part, we do feel and truly believe that we are living our lives with our eyes in the front mirror or window of our vehicle. Say if we're driving a vehicle, we think that we're living our lives with our eyes in the windshield.
Yeah. Okay.
But for the most part, we spend a lot of time in the rear view mirror and the side view mirrors, and all of that is looking behind. And so today I wanted to look at things through the lens of us not allowing the experiences that we had, everything we passed by in our rearview mirror on the way to our destination, that we don't allow those things to limit us or hinder us from ever reaching our destination.
Okay, so help me out here. I'm trying to grab hold of your analogy, and because I think that for the sake of safety and some other things, it may be good to be checking the mirror and looking out the side. But are you saying that focusing on what is behind is contrary to what we need to be doing to be moving forward?
Well, I'm saying that in spite of the fact that experience is valuable for making decisions, those experiences must submit to the unknown. And the unknown is what's in our future that we have to see through the eyes of faith. So our experiences, we need those to help us make decisions and make better decisions, but we don't allow the experiences that we have in life to cap our potential or capacity to move forward. For example, if I drive my vehicle, or most people, let's just say we abide by the speed limits, all right? We know the speed limit, so we between 45 and 70 or 35 and 70, we know that, but we know our car can go 100, 180. Now, so the experience of driving 40, 35, 70, 75 miles an hour based on the speed limit in the highways that we're on, that does not cap the capacity of the vehicle to do 100 or 180. A lot of times in our lives, we allow our experiences to hinder us from moving forward. Sometimes we give up. Sometimes we attempt to do something new, and the first things we say, oh, well, when I tried it last year, it really didn't work. And that hinders us when we really can do it. And so we don't use our experience to say to ourselves, okay, well, maybe I should do it this way. Well, last time I tried this, well, let me look at doing it this way. We don't continue to drive forward. Experience is a tool to be used, not a hindrance for us to stop us from moving forward.
Well, I'll tell you what, I have been guilty of that, though, of that very thing that you just said. When something comes up and, maybe it's a suggestion from a team member or something. Hey, why don't we try this? Well, I did that last year. Let's probably not do that. It didn't work out. But, because we do, and I get what you're saying now, we can let our experiences keep us from the future, keep us from moving forward in a positive way.
See, experience is a product. If we really look at it, experience is a product of the past. We're trying to move forward towards our future that is in us. Now, the thoughts of our experiences are also a part of our past. past thought processes. So in order to move forward, we have to override those, because the objective is to get down the road, to get to the reason why we are here on earth with as least amount of hindrances as we possibly can. But the biggest hindrance that we have, that most of us make, is we always look back to stay where we currently are versus looking back to have momentum to move forward.
Well, there have been things that I've learned along the way.
Yes.
I mean, God has shown me things, and there have been times I have burned my hand on the stove. I don't necessarily. I want to take what God has shown me,
yes,
and where He's been faithful and where He has grown me. Even I want to use that to propel me forward, but I also want to keep from putting my hand on the stove again. So our experience could be both good and bad, useful and not useful.
The issue with how we think about our experiences, and what I'm looking at is how we allow our experiences, which is a product of the past, to guide our future, or to stop us from moving towards our future. Any measurement of growth or any measurement of development or expansion will require us, will require our experiences to submit to the unknown. It will require our experience to submit to faith, to the substance of the unknown. And so that's why we say now faith is the substance of things hoped for. Well, that substance can't be based on a past experience. That substance has to be based on now faith is. So my thinking has to change drastically. And one of the things that hinders us from using our experiences the way that God would have us to use them is that we don't think about our experiences as now. We think of our experiences as past exposure to past events that we don't want to encounter again. We don't think about, okay, let me ride in on the knowledge of these facts and events that have been my experience. Let me ride in on those to a better future, a more, how can I say it? A future that is based on me becoming who I'm supposed to be, a future that's based on me expanding my company, a future that's based on me making better grades, a future that's based on me going to that college I've always wanted to go to, not a future that's hindered by my friend saying, well, you took that law school exam before and you didn't pass. You see, some people don't try again. And we always have to realize that, and we always have to make it known to ourselves that we can do it, whatever it might be. And this is why I wanted to actually look at the life of Moses, because when we look at Moses, the way things started out for Moses wasn't good at all. I mean, he was born, to die. He was born with a decree made for him to be thrown, in the river for all the male kids to be put to death. But as time went on, and he was raised by Pharaoh's daughter in nobility, in the best of everything, with confidence that probably soared through the roof because he was Moses. He was a prince there. He was the dude. He was that guy. So when that ran into him beginning to understand who he really was, a Hebrew, there was conflict within himself, not outside. What he did when he went out the first time in, let's say, Exodus, let's look at Exodus chapter 11, where it says, now it came to pass in those days when Moses was grown, now he's an adult now, that he went out to his brethren. All right, so he now knows who he is, and he looked at their burdens. They weren't Moses' burdens, but they were his. And he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his brethren. So he looked this way, See, because he knew what he was about to get into was not the best thing for him to do. If he felt that it was the best thing for him to do and he should be doing it, he wouldn't have looked this way and that way. He would have just acted. So it says he looked this way and that way. And when he saw no one was observing him, so he thought, he killed the Egyptian. And look at what he did. He hid him in the sand. This was an experience for Moses unknown. He never had to function like this before, but something within him was sharing with him. You see that he felt he was supposed to deliver his Hebrew brother from this Egyptian. And the way that he went about doing it, he was really premature in striking out on a course that on his own. He's striking out on a course on his own. And then when you look at 13, it says, and when he went out the second day. So he says, okay, I'm going to have another experience of this. I'm going to try this. Behold, 2 Hebrew men. Now, these were his brethren. They were fighting. And he said to the one who did the wrong, why are you striking your companion? Now, he didn't think about what he did the day before. He killed an Egyptian. He had just hit him. All right. So he says, then in 14, it says, then he said, who made you a prince and a judge over us? Do you intend, listen, to kill me as you killed the Egyptian? Somebody saw him. That which he thought he had hid was not. It was known. And in 15, the same verse he says here, so Moses feared and said, surely this thing is known. And the Bible goes on to tell us when Pharaoh had heard of the matter, he sought to kill Moses, but Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian, and he sat down by a well. When we look at what Moses tried to take on these experiences, and the majority of us have tried to take on our life experiences without God. Moses was trying to be who he was born to become without God. And most of our experiences in our lives have been experiences without God. And those experiences will cause us to doubt ourselves because we didn't get the desired result.
Man, hey, and just to clarify, you said you were in chapter 11, but we're in Exodus chapter 2.
Yes.
We started at verse 11. In case you're trying to follow along, listening live or in the podcast later on, and it'll be in the show notes. But we are talking about what's happening. It really begins at the beginning of the book of Exodus. As we get the backstory.
Yes.
How awful the oppression was, and how even in the midst of oppression, the Israelites,
yes,
they continued to flourish. And I think even the Egyptians began to fear them a little bit. They were a little concerned with what was going on. But Moses comes along. He's brought in because of this slaughter of the Hebrew children. He is put. We've all heard the story. He gets put in a basket and he floats down, and he gets picked up by the Pharaoh's daughter and raised in their home. And like you said, Tony, he has the best of everything. And he becomes a ruler or part of the ruling family.
Yes, he does.
Anyway, but he becomes aware somewhere along the line that he is Hebrew. That he's not like the rest of the family. He could tell he's adopted, as he looks around. And he senses, like you said, that he knows what he's here to do, but he begins to take matters into his own hands. He strikes out on that course just a little bit too soon. And I think this happens to a lot of us. We are called to something, or God is preparing us for something, and we begin to start doing it on our own. It could be a ministry that you're designed for, or it could be any number of things. And we begin to do this thing on our own, and it doesn't work out, and like with Moses, he kills the Hebrew. I get these guys mixed up. He kills the Egyptian and hides him, thinking he's doing it all in private because he's taking the matters into his own hands. He's doing like you said, what he's called to do. But somebody saw that happen. And so when he steps in and he tries to stop Tua, he's like, hey, man, this worked out. Why are you two fighting? Well, who are you, man?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's really what it came down to. He was not recognized in those circles. He knew what he was created to do, but they didn't know who he was at all.
And see, the thing here, when we really look at this and we go back to the beginning, wherein that God wanted us and the information about us, he wanted to reveal that to us. But when we decided we would eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which I call that like the birth of education for me. So we want to do it on our own. So man has his own wisdom by which he wanted to discover what he's here to do. And Moses plays this out here because he attempts to deliver. See, without God, he attempts to do something without God because the power and position that he had in Egypt, he still knew that that was limited. That's why he looked to hide the Egyptian that he killed. Mm-hmm. And then he looked to flee from Pharaoh because he knew Pharaoh find this out, then his life would be on the line. The climax and the thing that brings all of this together is when Moses finds himself on the backside of the mountain, in the desert, and at the mountain of God called Horeb in chapter 3. And God shares with him from 1 till we get to chapter 10 that he wants Moses to go back to Egypt, all right? But in verse 11, it says, but Moses said to God, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and that I should bring the children of Israel out? Notice this is up against the backdrop of what he already attempted to do. Now, because of those experiences, he asks God, who am I? And God shares with him in verse 12, so he said, I, God, will certainly be with you. That changes the whole thing there. When we look at what we've attempted to do without God, we actually become humble. But we also will remain where we are because he says, who am I that I should go? Basically, he's saying I can't go. Who am I? I should go. Then it says that I should bring the children. Man, I already tried this. You know, it didn't work out for me. And this is why God says so. He said, I will certainly be with you. I'm going to be with you this time. You're going to do it based on my time. The time is right now. I'm with you right. You're humbled enough to understand you couldn't do it on your own. But with me, yes, you will get this accomplished. And as we still go through, Moses still has doubts. My thing is that when we try to live life without God, our experiences will become shackles that hold us in the place where we currently are, and we fail to move to where we could be and what God created us to do because we feel like we can't do it. And you can't do it on your own. That's why it's so important that God says, so certainly I will be with you. Certainly I will be with you. So I want to, Dan, wake us up to the fact that experiences are necessary for making decisions. We experiences aren't something we throw out, but we have to understand that our experiences still must submit, see, to the unknown. And what is the unknown? The unknown for us believers is all that God has ahead of us, has promised to us. We see it in the Word of God. God has this new job that he wants you to go interview for. The door has opened. But you've been going to other places having interviews that just wasn't working out for you. Now here comes the job that you really, your dream job. You really wanted this job, and you're equipped to do everything that that's required of you at this position. But instead of running out to do it, you really start thinking about your past experiences and the emotions that are attached to those past failures of those experiences. Because when we begin to think about our experiences, every time you have a thought, you give birth to an emotion. And that emotion is what ties you down. You see, emotions don't come without a thought. You don't have those without a thought. So now, if you have good thoughts, the emotion is going to be great. You went fishing, man. You caught 25 fish, big ones. Man, that's a good thought. Next week, I'm going fishing again. But you go fishing and you don't catch anything. And someone says, hey, John, let's go fishing. Where you at? Well, man, I went last week. Man, I didn't catch anything. So John may have to encourage us to come on and go, and this is what God was doing. I'm going with you. So let's go get my people and bring them. And he gave him signs that, because Moses needed that. He needed something greater than himself to see that he was better than his past experiences.
Man, I love the correlation you made there. We look at Moses kind of doing on his own what he believed he was made to do, and how you related that back to the original sin, to Adam and Eve, when they were fooled into thinking they could just leapfrog ahead of what God had in mind and just grab hold of that knowledge and suddenly know everything. And, similar situation. Who told you were naked?
Yeah.
Similar thing happened later with Moses. Well, and he thinks he can't do it because he is holding on to that past failure because he knows he's tried to do that thing, and so it's important, I guess, that we really do. We wait, and this is the hard part for us because we've been human the whole of our lives. We don't want to wait on God, and so we jump. But then we get these negative experiences in our satchel. We're carrying around these things that will hold us back were it not for God. And I love how God responds. As we read there in Exodus 3 in verse 12. I'll be with you. Sir, in the version I'm reading, I will certainly be with you. And this will be the sign that I am the one who sent you. You will bring the people out of Egypt. You will all worship God at this mountain.
Yeah, and see the thing, initially, Moses sent himself to deliver his Hebrew brother from the Egyptian. He sent himself to do that after seeing the burdens of his Hebrew brethren at the hands of the Egyptians when he went out that day. He decided, I'm going to do something about this before the right timing for it, because Moses had to be trained. He had to have the type of training that it would take. That man's wisdom, man's knowledge, all he had learned in Egypt, had to submit to the revealed knowledge of God about the man that he created to become the deliverer. See, that day, he thought he was ready. He thought he was. But there's a part of him that also knew he wasn't. That's why he hid him. See, that's why he covered it all up. And I think that if we really take the time to look at all the experiences that we've had in our lives, if we really take the time to be honest with ourselves and how much every single day of the week, Dan, I would say over 97%, we are living in the past because we wake up thinking in the past. And with those thoughts come past experiences from Monday, Sunday, Saturday, Friday. But we're saying we're going to have a great day. But we have to overcome the thoughts of the past. Every morning we wake up All right, we may say our devotion, say our prayers, and we may put on the whole armor of God. We may do all of these things to get ourselves prepared for the day. But the next thing that we do, that all of us do, is when we pick up that telephone and we start looking at everything from yesterday. Whether we're checking our email, whether we're looking at social media, we're seeing things that we're doing all these things, putting ourselves in a position not to move forward, but to be in the rear, when we should really focus on the life that God has for us ahead. And we should be asking God about all that he wants us to accomplish today to glorify his name, versus looking at, oh man, I didn't get this completed yesterday at work. Man, it was a long day. Man, she came in off, she kept burning me. Man, I don't know. All of these things that happened in the past begin to shape our future. So we allow our distant past to shape our present future. And it seems like present future, I say it that way because our future is within us. So since we're planning what we'll be, we're already in the future. We just have to produce it so that the world can see what we've been thinking. And it's something that we have to train ourselves how to be the best version of ourselves, using our experiences as a trampoline to just catapult us into the future, but we're looking both ways.
I would love to see a exit interview with the one of the two Hebrews who Moses tried to break up the fight with.
Yes.
Because they had their experiences they were holding on to as well. And I'm sure Absolutely. About the time they got down to the water, to the Red Sea, they were thinking, oh, this dude, realizing, oh, this is that same guy doing that same thing. Other people hold on to our past as well.
Absolutely.
They look at us and sometimes will even size us up or determine our future by our failures of the past or by whatever experiences we have in the past. Say, there's no way this guy is gonna whatever, and so and not just other people doing that with us, but we do that with other people as well.
Absolutely.
We are so capable of holding somebody else back by our thoughts and memories and experiences with those people.
Yeah, see, our experiences really they have the propensity to limit us. And for many, our past experiences, especially our negative experiences. Now I'm talking about our bad experience, because the good experience, of course, you're moving on. But those bad experiences that we have, and most of us, because it's so, and how can I say this? It's really automatic to think negative. It's an automatic thought. You have to work at thinking positive. It's something we have to work at, because the very moment you think positive, bam, you try it right now. Something negative will pop up. You can be sitting in your home, a great day, that day, man, you just had a banged up day. And all of a sudden, a negative thought has just come from, out of nowhere. And you have to ask yourself, where did that come from? It came from something in your past. It came from something in your past you either watched. It came from something in your past by way of your five senses. It came through one of those doors. And that's why it's so important to guard all of those doors. You don't let everything come through that door, because that which comes through that door will become an experience, and it will shape and control you if you allow it to. That's why I say so much that our experiences must submit to our unknown future. It must submit to it. But for the most part, Dan, we really don't make that a reality in our lives on a consistent basis as much as we should do. Now, we're more than able and capable of doing it, because we can do some great things. We have a magnificent mind, a magnificent brain, but most of the time we allow our body to become the mind. And what I mean by that is our body does things better than our mind does them.
Not me when I'm dancing. But I don't want to discourage anybody, but I do want to encourage. If God has called you to do something, wait for God.
Yes.
He's got plans for each and every one of us, and maybe something is burning inside of you that God has given you today, but He's just not ready for you to do that thing yet. Just like it was with Moses, so could it be with you. So wait on the Lord. He does have big plans for you.
Big plans.
You've been listening to Your Life with your hosts, Dr. Tony Hare and Dan DeBruler. Join us again next time as we explore the questions everyone has about life, love, parenting, and relationships. Your Life airs Tuesdays at 2 p.m. on Christian 105.7, and you can always download, listen, and share online. Just look for Your Life wherever you listen to podcasts.